Dr. Manar. To start? Okay. Please have your seat. So this is a special session, and it's my pleasure and honor to welcome my colleagues, Dr. Rasha Samir and Dr. Atif. They are going to present together the issue of incremental dialysis, starting with incremental hemodialysis and then incremental peritoneal dialysis. And I am always pleased and have a great honor to have them with us in our team, because they are very professional, political, polite, and highly civilized. So we are very proud by both Dr. Rasha Samir, the lecturer of nephrology at Mansoura University, and Dr. Atif, assistant lecturer of nephrology at Mansoura University. And I'm leaving my Prof. Nagy to introduce Dr. Rasha Samir.
Rasha is a lecturer of nephrology in our department, and she's going to present incremental hemodialysis representing the group.
Thank you, Dr. Hussein. Thank you, Dr. Naini. It's an honor to be present here today with our project. I'm going to cover the main points of incremental hemodialysis, and this will be my agenda. I'm going to answer these questions throughout the talk. So I'll start with the first question, which is what? What's meant by incremental dialysis? Incremental dialysis refers to initiating dialysis at lower frequency, so we can adjust the dialysis dose or individualizing the dialysis dose.
I understand that we are late, but we should go by accepted pace. Otherwise, there will be a problem. So please take your breath in and out between the statements to allow for better translation and understanding.
Incremental dialysis refers to initiating dialysis at a lower frequency. So as you can adjust the dialysis dose or individualize according to the residual renal function, so as to the combination of the dialysis clearance, leads the residual renal clearance prefers the minimum accepted adequate dialysis. The target is to achieve the basic goals of dialysis with enough clearance of urinic toxins, control of volume overload, control of acid-base and electrolyte disturbance, and of course, improve the uremic symptoms. It may seem somewhat strange. At the time, they were studying that frequent dialysis and daily dialysis, that talking about twice weekly dialysis and incremental hemodialysis is introduced on the scene. However, historically, hemodialysis started with 2 sessions per week in 1960s, and it changed in early 1980s to 3 hemodialysis sessions per week, and this has been widely accepted worldwide without ever undergoing any randomized controlled trial to examine whether this frequent hemodialysis treatment was inadequate or harmful. Despite the several advancements in hemodialysis through the past 50 years, the optimum dialysis dose is still unclear. In the early 1980s, the concept of KT/V urea has emerged as a marker of adequacy. This equates for 1.2 for hemodialysis and 1.7 for peritoneal dialysis. But this means that too much K2/V does not necessarily mean good dialysis. So here we can find the survival curves for hemostatin that the standard dose of hemodialysis compared to the high dose had the same survival rate. So now my second question will be when? When should we start incremental hemodialysis? We have two types of hemodialysis patients. Prevalent hemodialysis patients who are actually on dialysis and new incident hemodialysis patients. So here I mean the incident new starter of hemodialysis. If we follow the history of guidelines, the Kidoki guidelines in 2002 recommended starting dialysis when the GFR is above 6 milliliters per minute. So it is advised to start at 8 to 10 milliliters per minute. In its updated form in 2006, the guidelines were revised and dialysis was advised to be considered at GFR 15. And then came the IDEAL trial. The IDEAL trial compared early start dialysis at GFR 10 to 14 milliliters per minute compared to late start 5 to 7 milliliters per minute. And as regards to mortality, the both groups showed no difference. And so, the guidelines came later in the European Best Practice Guidelines in 2011. Dialysis is considered when the GFR is between 6 to 9. In asymptomatic patients, dialysis is advised to be delayed. The Canadian Society of Nephrology 2014 Clinical Practice Guidelines had recommended an intent to defer over an intent to start early approach. An intent to defer here means that we will start either with first onset of clinical indication or estimated GFR 6 milliliters per minute, whichever occurs first. And because most of the studies that suggest early or late dialysis initiation are not upheld by facts and evidence, we can say that these are the main three contributors or indicators of the decision to start: the uremic symptoms and signs, residual renal function, and nutritional states. So when residual renal function fails alone to maintain all these vital functions, now we have a solid argument to start the dialysis. This will usually match kidney urea clearance of 7 milliliters per minute and kidney creatinine clearance of 9 to 14 milliliters per minute. Why incremental dialysis should be revisited? Or in other words, why should all patients be prescribed the same dose of hemodialysis despite the great variation in renal residual function? So these are the advantages assumed to be offered by the incremental hemodialysis. Cost saving, which represents heavy burden on the patient and healthcare system. Better lifestyle with fewer dialysis treatment, and now the preservation of renal residual function. And here comes the question: incremental dialysis, can it make a difference for residual renal function? And is hemodialysis a real enemy for renal residual function? Evidence says yes. Evidence from past literature, we can find that at the initiation of dialysis, there is progressive decline in the urea clearance by the native kidney function, or residual urea clearance. And there is also progressive decline in residual renal function after initiation of hemodialysis and months after initiation. Evidence suggests that residual renal function declines more rapidly in hemodialysis compared to peritoneal dialysis. But yet, around 50% of hemodialysis patients can retain significant residual renal function 3 years post-initiation. In this study comparing the twice-weekly hemodialysis to thrice-weekly hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis, the beta-2 microglobulin was used as a marker of glomerular filtration rate. Here we can find that the levels of beta-2 microglobulin are comparable in the twice-weekly hemodialysis group and peritoneal dialysis group, and this was too much less compared to the thrice-weekly hemodialysis group, suggesting that twice-weekly hemodialysis will preserve the residual renal function like peritoneal dialysis. But is residual renal function so beneficial? The answer is yes. The presence of a small amount of renal residual function is strongly associated with improved outcomes. This would expect not only simple enhanced small solid clearance. So here we can find in the choice study correlating the residual renal function to the quality of life, mortality, inflammation, and instant hemodialysis patient. Here we can see that the continuous line referring to a patient without residual renal function shows higher all-cause mortality and also cardiovascular mortality compared to patient with residual renal function. The residual renal function has been shown to have a benefit also in phosphate and anemia control. So here we can find that the higher the residual renal function, the less requirement for erythropoietin therapy. And also at regard the phosphorus control, we can find that the percentage of hyperphosphatemia patients, the gray bars, are less when the residual renal function are higher. So there is inverse correlation between the residual renal function and the hyperphosphatemia. And biologic the volume control. The patients who have higher residual renal function tend to have more urine output, and so less need for ultrafiltration. So here we can see from the white bars representing patients who have residual renal function have less ultrafiltration volume. This is a cohort study, overall and subgroup analysis of the association of the incremental hemodialysis compared to the conventional regimen regarding all-cause mortality. we can find that patients who had higher residual renal function showed better survival, despite in this study the patient continued on incremental hemodialysis for only 6 weeks throughout the 1-year study. In this recently published meta-analysis, also studying the mortality and renal function represented by the urine volume and estimated GFR, patients who have higher renal residual function showed lower mortality and better preservation of residual renal function. But always there is an exception for the rule. So here in this multi-center Korean Clinical Research Center registry, comparing thrice weekly hemodialysis patients with residual renal function and without residual kidney function to the twice weekly hemodialysis. We can see that the twice weekly hemodialysis group with residual renal function, the gray line, showed higher mortality compared to the thrice weekly with residual renal function, but less than the thrice weekly without residual kidney function. And also the same for the cardiovascular mortality. So it seems that it is a residual renal function rather than the number of dialysis sessions. The study is criticized for multiple reasons. As a small number of patients, unequal baseline characteristics, and the baseline characteristics were not in favor of the twice weekly group. But here we cannot ignore that the twice weekly hemodialysis group showed higher protein catabolic rate. Seems that patients who dialyzed twice weekly had poor nutritional status or worse nutritional status compared to the thrice weekly group, despite presence of good residual kidney function. And now coming to my next question, I'm going to answer how. How much dose should be prescribed? I mentioned before that the total clearance needed equal the sum of the dialysis clearance plus the residual renal clearance. For peritoneal dialysis, it is a straightforward process to combine the both clearance because the dialysis clearance and residual renal clearance are continuous process. But the problem is in hemodialysis. Because the clearance of the hemodialysis is an intermittent process, while that of the residual kidney function is a continuous process. So the general principle is to convert. Either to convert the continuous clearance of the kidney into an intermittent equivalent or the reverse. Several methods have been proposed, but none are universally accepted. So here we can find that we have to just convert the continuous renal residual function into an intermittent clearance, or converting the dialysis clearance to continuous clearance using the available equations. And here comes the disadvantage of incremental hemodialysis, which necessitates frequent need to monitor residual renal function, frequent prescription changes, and the mathematical complexity of its prescription. So how to calculate residual renal function in the case of using or generalizing the incremental dialysis? Because residual renal function is an estimate of the glomerular filtration rate, the gold standard, which is the in-lane clearance, and its alternative exogenous markers are impractical for clinical use. Similarly, we can find in-lane clearance with continuous inulin infusion, and the alternative markers may show extrarenal elimination or excess tubular secretion or reabsorption, and so they are impractical. So the default method of measuring residual renal function is interdialytic urine collection to calculate urea and creatinine clearance. And this, ideally, should span the whole interdialytic period, rather than just 24 hours during the interdialytic period. Urea clearance slightly underestimates GFR due to tubular reabsorption, whereas creatinine clearance overestimates due to tubular secretion. For this, other endogenous markers are suggested to calculate the renal residual function, like beta-2 microglobulin, beta-2 S protein, and serum cystatin C. All these markers are included in certain equations and provided reasonable estimates of residual kidney function. Now, introduce software programs and weight-based tools for aiding calculating the residual kidney function and the ureokinetic modeling. These weight-based tools, I invite you to visit the website ureokinetics.org for diverse adequacy tools and calculators. And you will find the solid solver, which is the gold standard, voting the start for further equations and further software programs. The solid solver uses JavaScript programming language, which is complicated by need for professional use. So further approaches and further tools are introduced. So here you can find the speedy approach, the speedy tool. This is a recently published or introduced user-friendly tool for prescription of incremental hemodialysis. The speedy program consists only of a few rows of a common spreadsheet. Here you find simple spreadsheet that include the patient the dialysis session characteristics, and by introducing the equations into this system, the residual renal function and equilibrated KT over V can be processed and can be calculated. The spreadsheet provides excellent results with clinically negligible difference with the gold standard solid silver software program. I have two remaining questions. Who is a gold candidate for incremental dialysis? The National Kidney Foundation in 2006 considered patients with residual renal urea clearance more than 3 milliliters per minute is adequate for incremental hemodialysis. The criteria later were expanded and included 11 criteria, but the main criteria include residual renal clearance more than 3 milliliters per minute, urine output more than half liter per day, and fluid gain between the two hemodialysis sessions less than 2.5 kilograms. Other criteria included limited cardiovascular and pulmonary morbidity, suitable body size, good nutritional status, lack of profound anemia, and satisfactory health-related quality of life. Provided that we have to frequently monitor at least once per month to change or modify the dose of incremental hemodialysis. And my last question, where the logistics of incremental dialysis can be applied. In countries with financial constraints, patients with significant renal residual function can be initiated on twice-weekly dialysis regimen if considered appropriate by the treating physician, and can be later upgrade or increase the dose with the progressive decline in residual renal function. So we have to prepare pragmatic scheduling as Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, and so to start 3 twice weekly patient instead of 2 thrice weekly. The exact prevalence of incremental hemodialysis is unknown because there are no renal registry in a standardized manner studying these parameters. But we can find from this data in the United States that in 1999, up to 6% of United States hemodialysis patients are on twice weekly hemodialysis or incremental hemodialysis. And through this study conducted by Wang et al., published in 2017, he utilized the VITA database and could found that more than 1,000 patients on twice weekly hemodialysis through the study population. But if this is start, if the incident hemodialysis patient started on incremental hemodialysis, the number, the percentage is going down with time. So if we look to the prevalence of incremental hemodialysis here, the dark gray bars, in this study of the incident 434 incremental patients, 155 patients transitioned to conventional hemodialysis within a period of 9 months, and only about 25% remained on incremental hemodialysis after 48 months. And since the first use of incremental hemodialysis by Romini et al. In 1985, the National Kidney Foundation guidelines in 1997, and its updated form in 2006 and in 2015, still recommend the use of incremental hemodialysis in patients with significant residual renal function, and suggested a target standard KT/V of 2.3. So the clinical and financial implication of incremental hemodialysis rendered highly promising and warrant more randomized controlled trial, taking into consideration that the urea kinetic modeling is the keystone for conducting such studies. Prospective trials are still required to determine the optimum approach to the initiation of incremental hemodialysis, and we should put in mind that the issue is not the absolute number of dialysis sessions, rather than the ability to individualize and to give each patient, or offer each patient, the adequate dose he needs. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rasha, for this presentation. Usually we tackle 2 presentations together. Residual kidney function is very important. And if we reach the secret, how to keep the residual kidney function, and if we start earlier, how to keep kidney function, this will be the solution. But again and again, we shouldn't forget that it is chronic kidney disease. By default, it's progressive. This is why there is another term for incremental hemodialysis, which is progressive hemodialysis. So we can start slow and increasing dialysis dose according to the patient status. So we should look at urine output. We need no sophisticated methods for calculation of residual kidney function. Just looking at patient symptomatology, if there is overload or not, as signs, and then laboratory profiles, including electrolyte disturbance, hemoglobin, etc., phosphate, acidosis, all these points, and residual urine volume. If the patient apparently stable, no electrolyte disturbance, and no hyperphosphatemia, and he has more than 500 ml urine per day, we can start preparing the stage for the dialysis by giving 2 sessions per week, and then we can increase. Sometimes the great problem with the patient is in overload, and you can find there is residual kidney function, but the patient is overloaded. And we have few patients